Hi, this is Edge Case, an extender to Behringer Edge that expands its capabilities in sound palette. Edge Case is only compatible with the Eurorec version of Zoia. It uses CV and internal modulation sources to overcome Edge main shortcomings. Edge Case consists of 3 main pages. Page 1, main sequencer. Page 2, matrix mixer. Page 3, mod sequencers. Let's start with the main page. On top, you see the clock source selection. On the left, it's MIDI. On the right, it's internal clock. Let's keep the internal. Here, we see the settings of the internal clock. This is the BPM, and this is the start-stop button, basically. On the bottom here, there's a sequencer, which is not really a sequencer, just sets the length of the actual sequencer of Edge. So if, for example, if we play, we now have 4 on the floor pattern, we can limit it to 6 steps. Here we have a button that is called odd restarts, which basically only restarts every first time out of 2. So you see, first time it does 6 steps, and the second time it does 8 steps. Next button is the halftime button. It's particularly useful with MIDI because it cuts the BPM in half and allows you to make shorter, like slower sequences, while the main device is playing the faster one. This is a selection of full phrase lengths. By default, it's set to 2 bar phrase, which means that when the main sequencer loops, after 2 bars, it will be reset. This way, you're not just getting a complete chaos of polymeter, you actually get a consistent pattern. So let's set it, for example, to 1 bar and keep the 6 steps. You see, every 16 steps it still restarts. This is 2 bars. And the first option basically makes it infinite, so it does not restart. Let's go to the second page. This is the matrix mixer. We have 4 CV ins here and 4 CV outs here. They are also shown on top and on the side here. Basically, I can connect any of the 2 inputs and outputs by selecting a specific pad. But not only I can connect them, I can click on the input or the output and actually attenuate it. So let's do something. For example, I can take pitch and get into CV in. I can take CV out 1 and put it to oscillator 2. Let's add a few more steps so we hear something. When I run the sequencer, we don't hear anything, but let's connect the first input and first output. I can also attenuate the input and would you need two different attenuations, you might ask? Because I can actually use a second modulation source, which I would put into CV1. And now I might sum two of these. So basically, this are two sources selected that go into the same output. An output may easily be overwhelmed, so I'll have to attenuate it. So currently I'm sending both pitch and velocity to oscillator pitch. I can attenuate the input. Or any of these. I think you get the idea. There are also 4 green pads here. These are slew limiters, which are also called glides here. Basically, if you select pitch and run it, you can smoothen the changes in pitch, or in any parameter that you want. You can also see that there are 2 additional rows here on the modulation matrix. These are 2 additional sequencers that we'll find on page 3. And these sequencers allow you to create internal modulations and send them to the inputs, to the outputs, I mean. Also, you might notice that the outputs are of slightly different color. 2 of them are 5 volts minus 5 plus 5, and 2 of them are 10 volts plus 10, because some parameters are one-sided on edge and some are dual-sided. Let's go to the modulation sequencers now. Here are the modulation sequencers. Let's, I guess, run the clock. We can see that the modulation sequencers are running. On each sequencer, I can just set any values. I guess let us point the sequencer at pitch. I go back. Remember that pitch is output 1. You see that this sequencer is 8 steps, but the main sequencer is 6 steps. So we've got an interesting polymetry. But we can make the sequencer also shorter if we want. Let's make it 5 steps. This green pad is the length. We've made it 5 steps. The indicator in the middle shows the amount of steps, and it disappears after you've done editing. Here you have the decay, because by default, when you set some value, this value just is held throughout the whole sequencer. If you add a decay, you can make a shorter decay and basically do pitch modulations or modulations of anything that you want. Next thing is the LFO that also targets the sequencer, so it's basically something on top. Let's make it slow and add amount. The sequencer here is exactly the same, but kind of flipped visually. But you can as well do all the same things. Select the lengths, which will be different from any other sequencer. Adjust decay, LFO, and amount. There's also a red button here on both of them, which allows you to invert the values. As this sequencer is only unipolar, if you want to get the negative values, you just press these values. Also, you have two buttons here. One of them restarts the main sequencer. Second restarts the modulation sequencers asynchronously. Let's, for example, add a modulation from second sequencer to filter decay. We're using 10 volts because it's unipolar. Second sequencer and the force output. How long is it? Let us make it 7 steps. Let's add a small level also. Let's slow it a little. Let us add some noise. As it's unipolar, we're using 10 volts. And let's use the first sequencer. There's a little too much noise. Let's remove some of it by attenuating the output. Now you can easily experiment. This thing becomes playable very fast. So let's just shorten the phrase lengths, for example. Make it restart every 1 bar. Now, when you have this phrase, let's stop it, switch to MIDI clock, and add some external drums. Let's modulate the first oscillator also. Too fast. Let's stop it. Make it half time. Open the decay a little. As you can see, it's quite easy to make interesting patterns. little changes that you do to the sequencer add so much groove. Let's make it 7 steps and switch to 1 bar full phrase lengths. So this is edge case. Enjoy.